The young man finished singing. Simon asked, "Who taught you that song?" And when the answer came, "My father 3 days before he died," Simon had to stand up from the judge's desk. America's Got Talent. Season 17. Tuesday night auditions. The Pasadena Civic Auditorium packed with 3,000 people. Cameras rolling. 4 judges sitting at their red desk, ready for the next act. Simon Cowell in his usual position, arms crossed, that familiar expression of calculated skepticism on his face. He'd seen thousands of auditions. Singers, dancers, magicians, comedians. Some brilliant. Most forgettable. A few that broke through the noise and touched something deeper. But nothing had prepared him for what was about to walk onto that stage. The contestant was introduced. Please welcome Ethan Parker, 22 years old, from Nashville, Tennessee. A young man walked onto the stage. Jeans. Simple button-down shirt. Dark hair. Nervous energy radiating from every step. He carried an acoustic guitar, worn, scratched, the kind of instrument that had clearly been played for years. Terry Crews greeted him with his usual warmth. "Ethan! Welcome to AGT. Tell us about yourself." Ethan adjusted his grip on the guitar. Hi. I'm Ethan. I'm from Nashville. I work at a music store. And I write songs. What are you going to perform for us today?" Terry asked. Ethan's voice wavered slightly. "I'm going to sing an original song. It's called 3 More Days. I wrote it about my dad." Simon leaned forward slightly. Original songs were always a gamble. Most were mediocre at best. But something in Ethan's voice, the tremor, the weight behind those simple words, made Simon pay attention. "Whenever you're ready," Terry said, stepping back. Ethan positioned the guitar, his fingers finding the strings. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, then began to play. The melody was simple, delicate, heartbreaking in its simplicity. And then Ethan began to sing. His voice was clear, untrained but honest. The kind of voice that didn't need polish because it carried something more valuable, truth. The lyrics painted a picture of a hospital room, of conversations cut short, of things left unsaid, of a father teaching his son one last song in the time they had left. "If I had 3 more days, I'd sing with you again. Show you all the chords I never had the time to teach. If I had 3 more days, I'd tell you everything. All the words I kept inside, every song I couldn't reach." The judge's expressions changed. Howie's arms uncrossed. Heidi's hand moved to her heart. Sophia's eyes glistened. And Simon sat completely still, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on Ethan. The song built slowly, each verse adding weight, each chorus hitting harder. Ethan's voice cracked on certain words, not from lack of skill, but from the weight of what he was singing. These weren't just lyrics. This was memory. This was grief set to music. When the final chord faded, the auditorium erupted. Standing ovation. 3,000 people on their feet, many openly crying. The judges stood too, all except Simon, who remained seated, his hand covering his mouth, his eyes red. Simon Cowell has seen thousands of performances, but none of them destroyed him like this, when the contestant said, "My father taught me, 3 days before he died." Simon had to stand up from the judge's desk. Ethan stood on stage, guitar hanging at his side, tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed by the response. Terry Crews had tears in his eyes too, trying to maintain his host's composure but clearly affected. The applause slowly died down. The audience sat. The judges sat. Except Simon, who was standing now, one hand still on the desk, the other wiping his eyes. "Ethan," Howie spoke first, his voice thick. "That was one of the most beautiful, heartbreaking things I've ever heard on this stage. Your voice, the song, everything about that was genuine and powerful." Heidi nodded, wiping tears. "You made everyone in this room feel something real. That's the rarest gift." Sophia could barely speak. Your father would be so proud. That was... I have no words. Simon hadn't said anything yet. He was still standing, breathing slowly, visibly fighting to compose himself. The audience noticed. The other judges noticed. Ethan noticed. Simon? Terry prompted gently. Simon cleared his throat. Once. Twice. Ethan. His voice was rough, barely controlled. I need to ask you something. Okay, Ethan said quietly. That song. When did you write it? I started writing it in the hospital. Finished it the day after my dad died. When did he die? Ethan's voice broke. 16 days ago. The audience gasped. Sophia put her hand over her mouth. Heidi started crying again. Howie looked down, unable to watch. Simon's jaw clenched. And you said in the song that he taught you. What did he teach you? He taught me this song. Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. We wrote it together. In his hospital room. He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctor said he had maybe a week. We had 3 days. Simon's hand gripped the desk harder. You wrote this together? In 3 days? We wrote songs together my whole life. Ethan explained, tears flowing freely now. It's what we did. Every Sunday, we'd sit in our living room and write. Just him and me and our guitars. When he got sick, when he went into the hospital, I brought my guitar. And he said, we need to write one more. Just one more, Ethan. Make it count. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this performance is still ahead. To understand what happened next, you need to understand Simon Cowell's relationship with fathers and sons. And more specifically, you need to understand what happened to Simon's own father. Eric Cowell died in 1999. Simon was 39 years old, at the height of his success in the music industry. He and his father had a complicated relationship. Eric had pushed Simon hard, criticized his choices, doubted his unconventional career path. They'd fought. They'd gone years barely speaking. And then Eric got sick. And Simon realized all the conversations they'd never had, all the things he never said, all the time he'd assumed they'd have later. Eric died before they could fix it. Before Simon could tell him that the tough love, the high standards, the relentless pushing, it had worked. It had made Simon who he was. And he was grateful. For 25 years Simon had carried that weight. The unfinished conversation. The things left unsaid. He never talked about it publicly. He kept that grief private, locked away, dealt with through work and success and becoming the man his father had pushed him to be. Until tonight. When a 22-year-old kid from Nashville stood on his stage and sang about having 3 more days with his father and actually using them. Simon stepped out from behind the judge's desk. The audience went silent. In 17 seasons of America's Got Talent, Simon had left the desk maybe 5 times. And never like this. Never with tears still on his face. Never mid-judging. He walked toward the stage. Slowly. His usual confident stride replaced by something hesitant, almost vulnerable. He stopped at the edge of the stage, looking up at Ethan, who stood frozen, guitar in hand, not understanding what was happening. Ethan, Simon said, his voice steadier now but still rough. Can I ask you to do something for me? Anything, Ethan managed. Will you tell me what your father said? When you finished writing the song together? What were his last words about it? Ethan's face crumpled. He said, this one's going to matter, son. You're going to sing this when I'm gone, and people are going to understand. They're going to understand that time is all we have. And we used ours right. The auditorium was silent except for the sound of 3,000 people trying not to sob out loud. Simon nodded slowly, his jaw working, his eyes closed briefly. When he opened them, he looked directly at Ethan. Your father was right. This matters. What you just did matters. Not because of the melody, or the chords, or your voice. Though those are all good. It matters because you had 3 days and you didn't waste them. You created something that will outlive both of you. That's... His voice broke completely. That's what sons are supposed to do. Backstage, producers were begging him to continue, but he didn't. Simon turned to face the audience. Breaking another protocol. Judges didn't address the audience directly during auditions. But Simon didn't care about protocols right now. I want everyone here to understand something, he said, his voice carrying through the auditorium. My father died 25 years ago. And I never got to have this conversation with him. I never got 3 days in a hospital room to write one last song, to say the things that mattered, to use our time right. He turned back to Ethan. You did. Your father gave you that gift. And you used it. You honored it. And now you're standing here, 16 days after losing him, singing what you created together. And you're destroying a room full of strangers because we all wish we had 3 more days with someone we've lost. Ethan was sobbing openly now. I didn't know if I should even come. It's so soon. But he made me promise. He said, don't wait. Go audition. Sing our song. Make me proud. Simon smiled through his tears, a rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. He's proud, Ethan. I promise you, wherever he is, he's proud. Then Simon did something he'd never done before. He climbed onto the stage. The audience erupted. Not in applause yet. This wasn't that kind of moment. In gasps, in shock, in collective understanding that they were witnessing something unprecedented. Simon walked across the stage to Ethan and extended his hand. Not for a handshake. He was holding something. His phone. I want you to have my personal number, Simon said quietly, though the microphones caught every word. Not for the show. Not for the competition. Because I think your father and I would have understood each other. And I think you're going to need someone who gets what it's like to carry this forward. Ethan took the phone with shaking hands, not understanding. Put your number in there, Simon instructed. I'm going to call you next week. We're going to talk about your dad. About music. About what comes next. Because you don't have to do this alone. Ethan couldn't speak. He just nodded, entering his number, handing the phone back. Simon pocketed it, then pulled Ethan into a brief, tight embrace. Your father taught you well, he whispered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. Now go make him legendary. But what happened next, no one in the theater, or watching at home, could ever forget. Simon walked back to the judge's desk. He didn't sit down. He stood behind his chair, hand poised over the golden buzzer. Ethan, he said, his voice clear now, steady with purpose. This isn't about the competition. This isn't about advancing to the next round or winning $1 million. This is about making sure your father's song is heard. Making sure his final gift to you reaches everyone who needs to hear it. His hand came down on the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded. The audience went insane, screaming, crying, standing, celebrating. The other judges stood, applauding, wiping tears. Terry Crews rushed to hug Ethan as golden paper rained down around them. But Simon stood still at the buzzer, watching Ethan fall to his knees on stage, overwhelmed, guitar clutched to his chest, looking up at the golden confetti falling like his father's blessing from above. After the show, Simon found Ethan backstage. He handed him a business card. Not for his management company, but for a grief counselor Simon had seen after his own father's death. Call them, Simon said quietly. And call me. You don't carry this alone. 3 weeks later, Simon kept his promise. They met for coffee. Talked about fathers. About music. About the weight of legacy and the gift of 3 days used right. Ethan's song, 3 More Days, was released and went viral. Millions of plays. But more importantly, it became the song people played in hospital rooms, at funerals, during those final precious moments with the people they loved. Share and subscribe, so this story will never be forgotten. Simon called Ethan every few months after that. Not as a judge or a mentor. As someone who understood. Who wished he'd had 3 days. Who knew exactly what Ethan's father had given him. And in Simon's office, framed beside photos of his own father, sits a handwritten lyric sheet. The chorus of 3 more days. Ethan had given it to him. At the top, in different handwriting, Ethan's father's handwriting, it says, "Make it count." Simon looks at it every day. A reminder that some sons get 3 more days. And the ones who use them right create something that lasts forever.